Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about 10 things that we wish we knew before starting minimalism. As you can see, I'm joined by a lovely guest. This is Sarah from Abundantly Minimal.
Hello again. Great to be here with you.
So glad that you're here. So yeah, I'm up here in Indiana. So Sarah lives in Illinois, but she very kindly came to visit me.
Well, you came most of the journey.
That's fair. That's right. But you still, still came to see me. So yeah, we're here at this absolutely gorgeous lake, and yeah, we were just kind of talking together and wanted to film a little video for you guys. So yeah, today I want to share with you guys 10 things that we wish we knew before starting minimalism. The first 5 are going to be here on my channel. The next 5 are going to be on Sarah's channel. But yeah, these are all things. We've been minimalists now for I think like 3 and 4 years respectively. So over that time we've definitely learned a lot about what it means to be a minimalist, how minimalism works practically for us. We just kind of wanted to share some of those things that we've learned with you guys today.
Absolutely. And real quick, just before we get into it, you might notice that the video or audio quality is a little worse than what's normally on Ashlynne's channel, and that's just because we're using my camera today. So if you're noticing any of that, it's my fault. I'm sorry.
It's also the great lighting behind me. We probably could have had better lighting, but
the lake is so pretty.
The lake in the background.
Yes.
So, yeah, but anyways, yeah, let's go ahead and get right into this. So my first thing that I wish I knew before starting minimalism was just that minimalism isn't a one-time thing. And I think that when I first got started, I had it in my head that I would be able to declutter my life and then have this beautiful, perfect, minimal life. But the real truth of it is that minimalism is an ongoing process, and you're always learning and even maintaining a minimalist space, and you're always kind of growing as a person. And because of that, minimalism is always, and what that looks like for you is always kind of growing and adapting as you grow and adapt.
Absolutely, that's beautiful. And I think part of the reason it does continue to be an ongoing process, in addition to the growth that you mentioned, just has to do with we live in a consumerist society. Minimalism is still not the most common or default option. And when you're in that framework, you still have to deal with a lot of the pressures of consumerism. People who don't understand a minimalist life and continually, whether it's through gifts or free items that they're trying to pass out, like people don't all understand kind of the minimalist framework. And so things just happen into your space sometimes, unfortunately, and then you have to continually deal with those, as well as sometimes we maybe make a purchase here or there so that we do end up regretting, or just our opinions change over time.
For sure. Just because you decide that you want to be a minimalist one day, like, that's fantastic, but it is all about, especially growing up in a more consumerist society, how do I change my habits? How do I relearn the way that I think about bringing possessions into my life, and how do I do that more intentionally? So it really is, it's so much more of a process, and it is like you adopt a lifestyle that you kind of grow into, but like it's not something that you automatically master from the first time you say, okay, great, I want to be a minimalist.
It is a journey.
For sure.
I think one thing that I wish I knew at the beginning was to visualize the end goal and have the end picture in mind. That's why a lot of people have vision boards. They're trying to visualize what their life is going to look like in the future. And if you can do this with your space, it helps, especially if you're stuck on certain items, because we might feel like we can't get rid of items, but when you try to connect it to what you want your future to look like, is that item part of that future or that ideal space? And a lot of times they're not. We just don't want to get rid of them, but they won't necessarily help us achieve what we want in the future. So I think really having that end goal in mind, even like with lesson planning, like as a teacher, we often think, okay, start with the end in mind. What do you want the students to learn and know how to do by the end of the unit? Same thing with simplifying your space. What do you want your space to look like by the end? And then you know what you're working towards.
For sure. I know that's one of like the most common like issues or problems that people run into when they're trying to adopt a minimalist lifestyle is, okay, how do I know what I should declutter, or how do I create the space that I want? And I think that by visualizing it and having that end goal in mind gives you something to work towards as you're kind of in the process of adopting minimalism, decluttering your life, all that stuff.
Love it.
Okay, and this next one is really near and dear to my heart, and something that kind of took me a little while to really realize as I was kind of pursuing minimalism, and that's that not every single part of your life needs to be minimalist. And I kind of had this idea that like, okay, everything I do has to be minimalist, from
it's all or nothing.
Exactly, from what I wear to what I eat to everything like that. But as I've kind of like learned more about minimalism and the intentionality that that lifestyle has, what I've realized is that sometimes there are things in my life that I want to bring in that are intentional that might not also be considered minimal. So like 2 examples I can think of off the top of my head are my love of tea. I have an entire tea cabinet, which is not minimal at all, but I drink like 5 cups of tea a day, love trying different loose leaf tea flavors, and it's like also a really fun social thing that I can like have friends over and invite them
she made me tea today and it was delicious.
It was a pretty good tea, but
wasn't it guava green tea?
GABA guava green.
It was
amazing.
It was delicious.
Yeah, but like, so like tea is one of them. Plants is another one. I love like the air purification that plants have. But more than that, I just love the kind of like life that it brings to my apartment. I live in a fairly large city, and because of that, I'm not always surrounded by nature. So I can kind of, by bringing plants into my life, surround myself with nature a bit. I definitely have, you know, more than 1 plant. I probably have more than 10 plants maybe, actually.
I mean, but there's no rules.
That's the point. That's the whole point, is that like, as I've learned what minimalism means to me, I've also learned where there are areas where maybe I'm not a minimalist, and the fact that that's okay, and that it's even a good thing to have areas where, you know, you might enjoy a little bit more of certain things, and it's okay to have that.
And I think, just building on that, you don't have to not call yourself a minimalist because you've got an area or two where you've got more. And I think you mentioned a couple examples. For me, my wardrobe, like I don't have a capsule wardrobe. And I recently, I didn't end up filming this, but I recently decluttered my wardrobe again. And I got rid of, since I work from home now, I got rid of a lot of my work clothes just because I don't foresee really needing them much. I kept like 1 or 2 like professional outfits for various things that come up, and I got rid of them. And I have more pieces of clothing than I think is considered like the capsule wardrobe when you add up like the seasonal stuff, but I'm okay with that. And I felt like if I decluttered it more, I'd be getting rid of an item just to get rid of it. So I have more than I need. I could totally make it work with other things, but I really enjoy all the different pieces I have at this point, and it's okay if I've got more than the average person. I mean, I have way less. I probably have about 1/5 of the clothing I once did, because I had an obscene amount of clothing at one point, and technically on my channel there's I think 3 or 4 clothing decluttering videos as I've continued paring it down.
Dude, that's what minimal looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like you just have to kind of accept, you know, certain areas of your space may not be as minimalist as others, but it doesn't mean that you aren't a minimalist.
For sure. It's about figuring out like what is an intentional number for you, and in some areas just recognizing that like it probably will be more than the proper minimalist amount. Like 2 types of tea is just not enough for me, you know? I want to have that variety. Same thing with your closet. You want to have that variety. Some people love books and they just want to be able to, and they love reading. They actually read their books, and so they want to have like a little collection that like of books that they love and enjoy reading. And I think that that's so important, that we like create space for people being able to have more of some stuff and still be able to consider themselves a minimalist, for sure. The
next thing that I've learned over time is that there's not one minimalist aesthetic. Now, I totally love the minimalist aesthetic. I know what you're thinking, maybe white, very modern, beautiful, and honestly, sometimes I get a little jealous that my space is not fully like in that aesthetic, because I do love it. I really do love it. But you don't have to have that aesthetic, or even the aesthetic of any of your items. Like, you don't have to have minimalist looking cookware or minimalist looking clothing or minimalist looking furniture to be a minimalist and to embrace the lifestyle. So I think that's important. Obviously, the stuff that's all, you know, white and very clean looking is all very nice, and I think it's beautiful. I genuinely do, but it's not the only way. And so I know in like our current condo as well as our past apartments, there's a lot of brown furniture, and I'd rather it was white, to be honest, but it doesn't mean that I'm not minimalist because of it. Like that's kind of a silly little thing, you know. You don't have to like hold yourself back from that, and that's totally okay. Minimalism needs to ultimately fit your lifestyle, and it's so much more than a look. It's a mindset, it's a way of life, it's how you curate the possessions in your life. It doesn't have to have anything to do with looks. And I think even some people think that for color, like you can't have really bright colorful items, but that's totally a myth.
It's not to say that the minimalist aesthetic that you traditionally think of, the white walls, the simple furniture, everything like that, like that's not bad. It's just more that I feel like a lot of people think that they can't be a minimalist because they appreciate color or because they like a different style. I personally love the log cabin style, and if I could own a log cabin one day with like the, I don't know, like the like really comfy rugs and blankets and just like
all cozy,
super cozy.
I mean, with all your tea,
right? With all my tea. But like I love that aesthetic, and like it's not what somebody might think of, oh, that's a minimalist aesthetic, but I can still make that space minimalist. And I think that's the distinction that we have to make, is that like no matter what your space looks like, and it can look like anything to suit your preferences, your lifestyle, like you know, all of that. It can look like anything, and it's more about the intentionality that goes into that space and what you put in that space that makes it minimalist, not the way that anything looks. Same thing goes for your clothes, same thing goes for, you know, pretty much everything else. Okay, and then this last tip is definitely something that I kind of had to come to terms with, and that's just that decluttering is hard, but it gets easier as you go along. And I think that when I first started decluttering, you kind of mentioned that you had to declutter your closet like 4 times. I had to do the exact same thing, and that's because knowing and being able to evaluate what you use and love is a difficult thing. And especially when you're getting started and you don't have a ton of experience with decluttering, it can be really easy for us to just like not judge the items that we have correctly. We put false weight on things, or you know, we just don't have the equipment or the experience to really be able to evaluate things well. And so decluttering is a difficult thing, but as you continue doing it, you kind of exercise the decluttering muscle. It's definitely something that you can grow in a ton and get a lot better at.
Absolutely. It's something that comes in phases, and it's been interesting to see this play out specifically. I teach a minimalism course called Better with Less, and we just did our 2nd launch, and I do allow students, like, they've got lifetime access, so they can come back and like go through the challenges with the new group as they wish. And a lot of them, they were like, I made tons of progress the first time, but now I'm ready to like take it to the next level. And so it just, that has been proof to me that this really does happen in phases. And it goes back earlier when you started the video about how it's not a one-time thing. It's gonna be cyclical. It's going to, maybe certain sections happen quicker than others, but it's just part of the evolution of life and the journey we're on.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think that they're just giving yourself space to allow yourself to grow in that way and to get better at decluttering. It can be difficult when you first get started, but just continue with it and it does get easier. And that's definitely something that I wish that I knew going into it, was that like it does get easier and it's not going to be like a challenge the entire way through. So, you know, and to the point where it can really get to the place where decluttering is really just fun, and you know,
it happens, believe it.
Awesome. Well, those are the tips that we have on what we wish we knew before starting minimalism. Of course, this was just half of them, so if you haven't already checked out Sarah's video, definitely go ahead and head over to her channel, subscribe, and also you just finished closing out the Better with Less course.
Yeah, but it will be offered again in January.
Okay, awesome. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, I have this great light shining down on my face now.
It was raining earlier, and now the sun's coming out, which is lovely. But you know, just natural environment. Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, if you're here from Sarah's channel, definitely check my videos out and go ahead and subscribe if you want. I make videos every single week on this channel about minimalism and intentional living. And yeah, so does Sarah pretty well, so definitely subscribe to her channel as well. But yeah, totally. I think that's everything I have for you guys today though. Love you guys all so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.